One of the things that Charlie was very involved in was heritage. If you look at the restoration of Dublin Castle and the provision of the International Conference Centre, for example.
That's right. Well, funny thing, Charlie had a wide interest in various issues, all benefiting the country in some ways, benefiting tourism in a very practical way. For example, the Dublin Castle and the restoration of the castle and a conference centre. This was something that was badly needed in the capital city.
An international conference centre.
And neglected. So Dublin Castle now is a showpiece. So Charlie was responsible for that. There's another thing he was responsible for, by the way, in the same restoration. He restored Leinster House and put fountains in and all the rest of it, and was criticised for that. Did a marvellous restoration job in Leinster House and made it a kind of a showpiece, not just an empty building. He put in various. He renovated the whole place, the building which needed renovation, and the grounds he put in various features, including waterfalls. So it's a very. He did a marvellous job there too, which I don't believe he's ever got credit for.
And the restoration of the Customs House.
Well, that was another building that had gone into disrepair, because I remember it, and it looked down at heel and all the rest of it. And whatever he did, organised to get done, at not at vast expense or anything like that, it was done very successfully, and suddenly, and it was lit up, and the grounds was looked after, and there was floodlights put on. So it's a very impressive building. If you're in Dublin in at night time, sort of in the autumn, and that, it looks very impressive, and it's a fine building. It's one of the gems in the city, in the north side of the city, if you like.
And of course, also, I mean, restoring all these places created a massive amount of jobs, because in the 80s, Ireland's unemployment rate reached almost 270,000, which was about 17% of the workforce.
Right. Yeah, because I was working in the country at the time, and you were looking to have a job, and oftentimes you'd have to move because it was a very unstable time. One of the things, this is the marvellous thing about what Charles J. Haughey did when he was minister and teacher, was the fact that he did all these things against the background of a most unstable problem in the 6 counties in Northern Ireland. There was hunger strikes, there was all sorts of things happening in the north, and we also had Mrs. Thatcher as Prime Minister in Britain, who was a very aggressive, sort of domineering type of person, and not open to sort of dialogue that you need to have when you're in politics. So Charlie did all these things at a very difficult time for the country, and yet succeeded in building it up in spite of all the obstacles.
Absolutely. I think his relationship with Margaret Thatcher was quite good, was it not?
Well, she knew where she stood with him, I think, because he expressed his opinions about he had some word about the north of Ireland, that it was you couldn't run it in any modern sense of the word because of the divisions, and in some ways, unfortunately, with the input of the British, wherever they are stuck in some other country, there's always disunity and there's always problems. If they weren't stuck there in that sense, the chances are people that might have opposing views, the same as Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil in this country, they can get common ground. But if you have a major power supporting one side and interfering, well then it doesn't augur well for the country, and Charlie had to operate under very difficult circumstances, and this is all the more amazing, all the things that he did.
The restoration of the Royal Hospital, Kilmainham.
That was another marvellous thing, because that was run down, weeds were growing out of the windows. It was deplorable. He did a marvellous job there. As a matter of fact, I was at a conference in it years ago, and it was a very successful affair, if I remember rightly. And I think there was this fellow Dermot Morgan. This fellow used to do Scrap Saturday on Radio Éireann on a Saturday. He was a very talented individual. He did the thing to Father Ted on the television and that, but he was very talented. And he did a talk, I remember, at that conference. and it was very humorous, very enjoyable day it was. A friend of mine invited me to it. I wasn't part of the establishment, whatever it was, but I was invited to it by a friend, and it was a marvellous occasion. But I was in it subsequently, and the way it was restored was just spot on. And I don't recall it costing that much.
So the Royal Hospital Kilmainham, is that beside Kilmainham Jail?
Correct.
Or is that the same building?
No, it's beside it. It was, I think, that it was the hospital for British soldiers that was injured.
Okay.
That's where it was, the Royal Hospital.
Because across the way from Kilmainham Jail, you now have a very important hotel for the city, the Hilton.
That's right. Well, you see, also Kilmainham Jail was done in such a way as it attracts a lot of visitors because of the history attached to it.
Well, I can tell you that I pass that quite regularly when I go to Kerry, right? And it's always packed.
That's right. It doesn't get much publicity from the national media, the ones that support all sorts of issues that have no benefit to anyone. But that, what Charlie did at Cigars, and I'm sure he had something to do with that, where they were executed, Kilmainham Jail, and it's very well done. I paid a visit to it, and it'd make you nearly cry at the way they were treated. So it's very important.